out of Sacramento, California.
Woo! What you gonna do?
Better. Stronger.
Son of a bitch.
Faster.
Oh, yeah!
But you know what I wanted to talk to you about this week? So we've been talking with you for quite a long time about losing weight, you know? It's kind of how we came together in the first place.
It is.
You came here after doing like a carnivore diet, I believe, and following us online.
I
And
was like keto.
yeah, you were doing keto for a long time, right? Did you switch over to carnivore when you met us, basically?
I did, and also because I realized I was never in keto when I did keto for like
You did
4
like
years.
dirty keto, like not real.
I mean,
You did low carb.
I did lower carbs than before, but you know, I was probably never in keto, but for about 3 hours.
So Mark and I talk about you all the time, and you're like, you know, almost like working yourself into like honorary bell brotherness, you know. You hang out with us a lot. We love having you around. Andy loves you, which is huge because she's pretty vicious on people.
I like Andy a lot.
Yeah,
Andy's very cool.
if you're on Andy's like Andy will let us know if our friends are like, this guy's got to go, you know?
Yeah, that's fair.
And you're one of the people where she's like, oh, where's Russell, you know? So she likes you,
That's
which is
very
good.
sweet. That's very sweet.
But she's a good judge of character, I should say, in her defense, that it's not like, it's never unwarranted, you know? If she says like, oh, that guy's the worst, it's because she means it. But, you know, we love you and we want you to, like, I want you to be able to, like, play with your kids and have a nice, long, beautiful life with your wife when your kids are grown and out of the house and all these things. And the only way we can really make those things happen is to knock some of this weight off you that's been, because you're ready. Like you're mentally ready.
Right.
You know? And we've been kind of tinkering around with this stuff, kicking it around. But I figured there's no better thing to do with this podcast than to turn it into a journey, you know? And I want to take you on a journey where we check in every week.
Okay.
I don't want it to be pressure on you. If you can quit at any time,
Okay.
not the podcast. You have to still do the podcast.
Okay, deal.
But you can quit doing this at any time.
Okay.
And what we're going to do is I spoke to Jeff Whitmer at Whitmer Rejuvenation Center. And if you guys want to talk to somebody at a rejuvenation center, at a testosterone clinic that can get you your blood work and testosterone, there is a link in my bio on Instagram at Big Strong Fast for Whitmer, and you can talk to those guys and they will set you up. But anyway, regardless, when I talked to Jeff and his father, who's the doctor over there, Dr. Whitmer, I asked him about this drug called semaglutide. And semaglutide is something that I heard from Derek, More Plates, More Dates, talking about. I heard Greg Doucette talking about it. But I've actually heard about it way before then. I just didn't. I was always waiting. Like, it's always, there's a time period where a drug comes out and then the bodybuilders get their hands on it.
Okay.
And I knew that this drug was going to be bullshit unless bodybuilders got their hands on it. Like, I knew that, like, not that it was going to be bullshit, but, like, I knew that the drug would be like, you know, if it was good for bodybuilding, then everybody be like, oh, this is great.
Like
you know,
they use the drugs at work.
yeah, they use the drug. Put it that way. Yeah, they use the drug. Bodybuilders use the drugs that really work. So semaglutide, what it does is it's for type 2 diabetes, which is interesting that you're not type 2 diabetic, which is actually good. And I think that might be a tip of the hat to you for actually living this like healthy lifestyle. Like, even though you weigh 470 pounds, I look at guys like Jimmy Moore, who's lost a bunch of weight and then he gained a bunch back and he's over 300 pounds. And but I think Jimmy Moore's fairly healthy. You know, like all of his health markers are good. He always posts his blood work, you know, and he's doing his best that he can. He's just having a really hard time losing weight. Some people just do. What we've seen with this drug, semaglutide, is that people over a 2-year period of time, so you got to commit to like 2 years.
Okay.
Over a 2-year period of time, they lose 15% of their body weight. With really doing not much else. They say with like a healthy lifestyle, but you're well beyond the healthy lifestyle. Like, you're into, you know, carnivore diets and fasting and these things.
Right.
What this drug does is it actually conquers the toughest thing out there. The only thing that stops us from eating a good diet, really, is cravings.
Right.
The craving to eat the wrong things. Like, if you know to eat a steak and you get your steak down and then you're not hungry later, you're not going to go eat the potato chips.
Right.
Hopefully.
Right.
You're not going to eat the, Twinkies at night or something, right? Like,
Jelly sandwiches.
It's funny because Twinkies are always the example, but
raisin bread.
Does anybody eat Twinkies ever? Like, they're not that great. That's
it. I haven't lived in a world where I buy that shit in a long time. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
I don't.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, you're beyond. To your credit, you're well beyond that. You're not living that lifestyle anymore. But Mark and I, because I asked Mark to help us, he's totally down to help.
Oh, Mark's been down to help me for.
Yeah, but we've never, like, what we've been doing with you, I think is wrong. Is like we've both been hammering you with like different ideas. So what I want to do with Mark is like we're going to consolidate. We're going to get on like a 3-man text.
Okay. We're
going to start that, and we can share some of those texts on here because I'm sure some will be funny and fun.
Yeah, sure.
And like I really want you to like if you're like what I really want you to do is like last night when you texted me, like that's all you need to do, bro. Like just text me. Like if you're going to eat pizza. Text me and I'll try to talk you off the ledge.
And which I didn't, by the way, last night.
No, I know. You did great.
Tri-tip Caesar salad minus the croutons last night. It was fantastic.
But like if you need Mark and I to talk you off the ledge,
yeah,
just like text us.
I appreciate that.
And be like, hey guys, I'm about to like eat bad.
Even if you guys like,
and then even though we know about it, you're gonna do that less.
Right.
Like even if you go and have the pizza or whatever it is, you're gonna end up doing it less. And then we put you on the semaglutide. If you're not hungry, I'm almost like, here's a chance for a guy who never's got a break with his weight to get a fucking break.
Well, even like with your phone's usually on silent, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that if I text you, oh my God, I'm white knuckling it tonight. That means I know we're gonna have a conversation about it in 8 to 12 hours or less. And
my phone's usually on silent, but if you text me something and it's like serious, then I will get right back.
Well, I mean, if you don't hear it beep, you don't hear it beep.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, sometimes you'll text me like, "Hey, I got an idea for the podcast," and like, it's not really. Well, I got to get right back to you. Like, so I might get back to you the next day.
I don't live in a world where there's an obligation to respond to text messages immediately.
Yeah,
that's some crazy. That's
That's a world long ago where like. You used to be like, you know how to get in touch with me. Now you're like, I just want to be alone for a couple hours.
Do you remember those clickers? You could actually click in and just like walkie-talkie somebody.
Oh, yeah. Nextel.
Oh, I saw those. I remember being at work.
Too available. You're too available.
Yeah. No.
Like, I don't want to be too available.
No, I don't want to do that at all. Not at all.
Like, I don't want to be sitting here doing a podcast and some chick buzzes me in and be like, hey. It's like, you want to, like, hey, I just need to be by myself for a couple hours. Yeah. So, anyway, regardless, we're going to use this stuff. So there is a couple things that I wanted to tell you. Let me get my glasses here, really, because I was just looking this up before the podcast, and I think this would be interesting because I want people to understand why we're doing this. So check this out, right? How much weight can you lose on semaglutide? In the Step 5 trial, adults with overweight and obesity treated with weekly semaglutide subcutaneous injection, so it just goes right under your skin in your belly. It doesn't hurt at all. Lost an average of more than 15% of their body weight from baseline through 104 weeks. So it's 2 years, compared with the placebo group of less than 3%. So that's a huge margin, And then let's see what else we got here, because I had a couple of my phone is always messing up here. I took a couple of screenshots of some of the things. Okay, so patients can lose significant weight on semaglutide because it suppresses appetite. Semaglutide can be taken orally or by injection, according to Novo Nordisk. And it works by increasing the production of insulin, which is interesting, right? A hormone produced by the pancreas that helps regulate blood sugar. Let's see. There was one more thing. So it's a GLP-1 analog. GLP is a natural hormone. GLP-1 is a natural hormone that has multiple actions in glucose and appetite regulation. Blood glucose and appetite is mediated by changes happening in the pancreas and the brain. The hormone glucagon, like peptide or GLP, plays a major important role. So basically what this is going to do is make you feel full.
Just get that full sensation earlier?
Yeah, your ghrelin is like the hunger hormone. Like ghrelin, Doucette always says, ghrelin comes punching in the face at night, and he's right. Yeah. That's what comes punching. I can fast all day long, and I actually told Mark I wish there was like something that was like a gun to the head at night. Like I said, I wish you could. I was messing around, but I told Mark, I said, I wish I could shoot myself in the head every night and then be able to wake up the next day because I can't. Like I've insomnia so bad, and it's what makes me overeat.
Right.
You know.
I don't know if this could be a complete bullshit theory, but I've recently started wondering is that urge to binge at night just your body looking for a food coma just to shut down because your brain's spinning. Like you and I both have very fast brains. And
another good thing that you might not think about at night because it's weird, but like you might do really well just mixing up like one of Mark's hydration packs or an element pack, some sort of electrolyte formula, because magnesium helps you sleep, but also sometimes you need more salt. Like a lot of times Stan Efferding says it's taking about 4 grams of sodium, I should say. And we usually don't get that much. So a lot of times when you have these cravings at night, it's just like your body really needs the salt. It doesn't really need the food. So maybe by having like an element, or it's a good idea to just try, right? Like you always want to try with the, the smallest effective dose. Minimum effective dose is what doctors always say.
Right.
So what's the minimum effective dose you could do of calories to yourself, right? It's 0. And something like Element or Mark's hydration packs, they have pretty much no calories in them. They may have like 2 calories in them or something. So we'll start there. You have one of those, and by the time you drink it down, if you're still hungry 20 minutes later, then maybe you do need to eat something. But maybe that should be the first line of defense, something along those lines, like have another hydration pack at night, That's a
really good consideration. I've never put it together that maybe your body's taking inventory of what were the nutrients you missed today.
Yeah.
Let's go, hey, we need to fill these up. I mean,
your body's always kind of taking inventory, and that's why I feel that protein works really well. Like Mark talks a lot about protein leveraging. And then Lane Norton posted something interesting today where he's like, I don't think it's protein leveraging necessarily, but like protein leveraging works. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't giving it like the full, because he was going over something Rob Wolf said on Rogan. And Rob Wolf was just recently on there, and he was talking about sort of like when you eat more protein, it sort of forces the junk out. And Lane's like, kind of true, but not totally true. But yeah, this would work. Like it would work for you, but here's some caveats to it. And he gives you some caveats to it and like places where maybe it doesn't necessarily work that way. But for the most part, when we eat more protein, we're usually better off. Like we usually aren't as hungry. And for the most part, in America, we eat very low protein. Most people do. So at night when they're craving food and they go and eat, potato chips or whatever, they're actually really, their body wants protein. But they don't give it any protein. They give it more empty calories, And empty calories are like, what a great, I never really, really thought about it. But when people talk about like, oh, beer, it's just empty calories, or potato chips, they're just empty calories. And I always think like, what is an empty calorie? And it doesn't have the nutrients it needs. And really what it's really lacking is protein, because empty calories have carbs and fat. They're lacking protein. That's all they're lacking. So if you switch out your empty calories with protein, you're just a million times better off. Doesn't that make sense?
I mean,
like I was telling you, I made meat sauce last night with you gave me some pork panko breadcrumbs from Pork King Good, which if anybody out there listening wants to get some good grub, go to Pork King Good and check out their pork rinds are amazing, first of all. But also they have the crushed pork rinds, which are basically like breadcrumbs, and they're a 1-to-1 substitute for breadcrumbs. So you throw them in there with some ground beef and Italian seasoning, some Parmesan cheese, and you have what? Meatballs.
Yeah.
Right? And then you throw some Primal Kitchen sauce on there.
Yeah.
I made this meat sauce. It was so good. Yeah. It was ridiculous. Yeah. And because, this is what I told Mark, the pork panko mixes with the Parmesan cheese, and in my head, I was eating pasta.
Yeah.
Like in my head, I'm like, this is really satiating. This is really good. It has like a little bit of texture to it beyond just like eating meat.
Yeah.
And it was great, man. I was like,
Rebecca,
I'm going to make that again for sure.
A couple of times the last few weeks, she's made basically what you said, but instead of the Porking Good, she's put in just some generic zucchini noodles.
Yeah, you can do that too. Yeah.
I mean, is it the same? It's not the same, but it's still really good.
Well, I think if you did the pork and good, like the whole thing that I did, and you threw that on zucchini noodles, that would be amazing. And zucchini noodles have almost no carbs.
Right.
They have like nothing in them.
Right.
You know, I do tell people, like, a lot of people like load themselves down with stuff like cauliflower rice and this and that. And, like, that's okay to have, but like, I just don't think it's really worth. Like, I don't like it that much, and I'm like, I don't want to eat all that, you know. It definitely has carbs in it and stuff like that. So I don't necessarily eat cauliflower rice, but there are some places that make. See, I don't make it that good. I always just microwave it in a bag or something, and it tastes okay. But for some weird reason, I don't know how they cook it. Bulletproof Coffee in Santa Monica, they give you cauliflower rice, and for whatever damn reason, I don't know what they do with it, but it actually tastes like regular rice.
Really?
Like, it has a texture, like I don't know what they do. They're doing something different. Maybe they fry it in a pan or something. I don't know.
And this is at a coffee place?
Well, because Bulletproof Coffee is Dave Asprey's place, and he has all sorts of cool stuff there. Like, they have, you know, different food, mainly breakfast, but they have like lunch also. Like, they have a really good, you can get like steak and eggs and different things there, you know.
Is this his headquarters?
It's in Santa Monica on Main Street.
So it's a coffee shop?
It's a coffee shop, and then right next door is Upgrade Labs, and Upgrade Labs is like a weird gym. It's like a gym, but there's no like lifting equipment in there really. There's a couple different machines, but there's like machines that you go on for like 5 minutes, and it's supposed to simulate like a 2-hour workout. And so people go in there and work out, but you only go in for like half an hour. Oh. And they have cryotherapy in there. They have this is really interesting, but I don't think it's that good. Like, I think Joe Rogan would shit all over this. They have a virtual float tank, so you don't get wet or anything. It's not like a, you know, sensory deprivation chamber, but it's like you don't get wet. You just like lay in this bed, and it's really kind of funky. And you have like these glasses on your face, and there's all these like flashing lights and crazy things going on, and it sort of like makes you just meditate. Like I think it like overloads you with information so that you just meditate, and it's really weird. You kind of go off into a different world when you're in there, but it didn't seem to be as good as a float tank, but it simulates that, you know. So they have all this weird stuff at Upgrade. It's called Upgrade Labs is what it is. You can check your body fat there. You can get your blood work done there, all that kind of stuff, you know.
Those new health science boutiques, they're incredible.
There's places that are in, I was telling Mark about this. I would like Mark and I, or maybe, you know, whatever. I'd like us to get involved in something like this. I think there is a place for like to have like, Rogan talks about this all the time, and there are places like this in Texas. Imagine a place that's in like a strip mall, like a nice strip mall, like in a nice area of town, and you basically walk in, and for like $99, you can get like a basic blood panel. You know, you could get your heart calcium test, like all these tests that men and women need that are like just not normal run of them. Like, I don't want to have to go to a doctor's office, pay for parking, blah, 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 blah. You know, they just make an appointment. I want to be able to like walk into a place and be like, I need to get my blood work checked. And they're like, okay, cool, have a seat. You know, like a kind of a drop-in place. And they have these places in Austin, Texas, where they'll sit down, they'll do your blood work. If you need testosterone or something, they'll get you with a doctor and get it prescribed to you. Like that, there needs to be more quick health places.
More like more Quest Diagnostics with a broader scope of services.
Yeah, like maybe when you go into, maybe Quest Diagnostics should expand into something like that. Like they have so many places that if they just had like a little bit more equipment, they could really service a lot of, like really help a lot of people, like those the calcium scans for your heart. And I know that Leo in Longevity says that's not necessarily the best test to get, but it's a good indication that if you have heart disease or not. I've been dying to get that. It's like they put a ultrasound on your neck, and they see if you have plaque. But I want to know.
Yeah.
And it's expensive, and it's a pain in the ass. You know, it's not that expensive. It's just like I've tried to look it up like 5 times, and I can never find the right place to do it and stuff like that. So it's like I just wish these things were more accessible. Like I got my blood pressure checked every single week. I'd walk into CVS and stick my arm in the machine, and it would check my blood pressure. Well, because of COVID, they got rid of those because they don't want people to get sick. But they don't mind that you die from a heart attack because your blood pressure's too high.
Right.
You know what I mean? So now I don't. It's funny because like now I don't check my blood pressure, and in order to check my blood pressure, I have to go out and buy a cuff. and the cuffs are kind of so the cuffs that the doctors read, I don't know how to read that. That's like pain in the ass. And then the digital ones aren't really that accurate, as far as I know. Mm-hmm. I would actually trust the machine at the CVS more than I would trust one of these little home ones because it's like a more expensive machine. Mm-hmm. But I just wish that stuff was easier to get to, so we can get tested and move on and figure out, what you need. I think it's really important. I have this watch and it's got all these different apps and all these things that you can do for health. I don't find any of them helpful. Like the only thing that's really helpful is like it shows me my heart rate and maybe how many steps I walked. Mm-hmm. But it's not that helpful. Like I wish, supposedly on the next version, they're going to actually have blood tests, and they're also going to make it so that your continuous glucose monitor, CGM, which monitors your glucose around the clock, they're going to be able to make that hook up to your phone as well. So to your watch. It'll
sync to your watch, and your watch can read it. So your watch
it'll read it right from your arm. Like there's a thing that goes in your tricep. So a continuous glucose monitor. I just got one from a company called Levels. They're a startup, and they gave me. You do it for 14 days. So the whole idea behind Levels is not to necessarily wear this all the time. And I'm not sure exactly how this company works, but I think how it works is that you just do it twice for 14 days. You do like a 14-day trial, and then you take a couple weeks off, and then you do 14 days again. And I think you work with their app. They're different than a lot of these CGMs because a lot of these CGMs are made for people with type 2 diabetes, mm-hmm. and they're just checking their blood sugar. I think what these people have developed is a way to develop like a diet based around the data that you collect.
Now, did they just reach out to you? How did that happen?
Yeah, so Tiffany, who's my producing partner on a bunch of my projects, her friend from high school started up this company called Levels, and so they sent it to me. But yeah, we could probably get that for you too if you needed it. But you're not gonna be eating a lot of carbs, so I don't think you actually need it.
Right.
For me, when I do it, I'll probably experiment and try different carbs to see like what peaks it, whatever. But what's so funny is that all the apps in the world, I think there's 27,000 apps, and the country's still getting fatter. Like they don't work. They're not effective. They're not helping. Like in general, if you look at like that versus the obesity epidemic's growing, and there's more and more apps.
But you can't tech your way out of eating bad, right? You can't Fitbit your way out of eating bad.
Not yet.
You can't
Not yet.
Not yet.
You will be with Neuralink, right?
Awesome.
Program yourself out of it.
If you could actually download, stop.
Matt, it would be amazing, right?
What?
The Elon Musk makes this Neuralink, and it can read minds and all this stuff. And then you could also download like the carnivore diet into your brain and your body. You just do it.
I know Kung Fu.
Yeah, right? I know Kung Fu. I know carnivore. And then you can be like, I know keto, and, I know if it fits your macros.
Right.
But you could pick the diet you wanted and program your mind to it.
I mean, that's my point, though. I've known about the keto diet. I started hearing the first whispers of it on JRE way, way, way long ago. Then I stumbled across the Keto Gains community on Facebook, and I think I stumbled on YouTube. Jeremy McAllister or something like that, Fat Adapted Athlete, mm-hmm. and then Keto Gains, and Tyler and Luis and all those guys.
Yeah, I love those guys.
I got the education of what to do. I never was able to execute the how to do it, mm-hmm. And that's
Here's what I found out. You can't tiptoe into it. You got to go okay, Jimmy Moore. This is an amazing story, actually. Jimmy Moore, he's a friend of mine. He wrote the book Keto Clarity. He's kind of the king of the keto diet, but he's kind of relatively unknown because at the time he was the only person writing about this. Now, several other people, what I kind of don't like about it is that other people that were already popular have sort of stolen his spotlight. But he's the first guy to write a book called Keto Clarity, and it was awesome. And he had this book, and he was this guy. He was 400 pounds, and he really needed 420 or something like that. He really needed to lose weight, and he got down to 230. And I'm like, this guy's awesome, right? And I listened to his whole book, and I remember specifically because it had I got the audio book. And he would be talking, and he talks like, I'm Jimmy Moore. He's like a good old Southern boy. Hey, I'm Jimmy Moore. How you doing? That was probably a bad impression. But anyway, Jimmy, he's a great dude. And he, okay, so I actually ended up meeting him, right? And when I met him, it was the weirdest thing because it was actually like going to Wally World and it's closed. Because when I met him, because I didn't have the same mindset as I have now. When I met him, he was about 300 pounds again. And it made me sad because he had gotten down to like 230. And then when I met him, he was kind of heavy again. But now I realize, like, well, he's still just way healthier than he was.
He's still,
he's fallible. He's a man. He's a human being. And he's got all sorts of weird conditions that, like, not a lot of other people have and whatever. But the bottom line is he consumes too much food, else he wouldn't be heavy again, right? Like, he might be a great candidate for something like the Wegovy, right? He also might be a great candidate for TRT. He just turned 50. And when I try to talk to him about TRT, he's a Christian Southern boy. He acted like I was Satan. He's like, oh, no, I don't even take aspirin, brother. Wow. And I'm like, he's like, I won't go near a doctor. And I'm thinking, like, well, maybe that's the problem. Like, maybe we need to get him on, TRT or something. I actually should probably hit him up and send him over to Whitmer and see if they could help him because he's been struggling forever. And he's such a good person. And his book is so good. And, like, what it did for me, I could not thank that guy enough. That Mark and I knew about a keto diet forever. But when I went back and read Jimmy Moore's book, and here's why I talk about committing and diving in. I kept hearing him say, you need to get a ketone glucose, ketone monitor, like a ketone finger prick. And I'm like, I'm not pricking my finger for this diet. I'm not doing it. Fuck that. I'm not doing it, right? Not doing it. Well, I'm trying to do the diet. I'm not losing weight. I'm not losing weight. I start pricking my finger. And next thing you know, I'm in ketosis. Next thing you know, I'm losing weight. Next thing you know, I'm skinny. Like, I'm so skinny. I went from 215, or I was 247 pounds down to 188 pounds. And I still haven't gotten as light as I did when I did Jimmy Moore's full-on, full-bore ketone diet. Now, I was skinny fat when I got to the end of it, and I was dating Lauren. And I'd go to the gym, and I started feeling like, oh, man, like, I'm dating this hot chick, and she's all in shape, and I'm kind of like skinny fat now. Like, I didn't look good. And I kept trying to figure out, why I didn't look good. And actually, what's crazy is that in this time period, one day I had one day I actually watched a documentary about veganism, and it almost got me. Like, it got me to be like, I'm still kind of like chubby and not, feeling good. And I watched this movie all about veganism, and I'm like, maybe I should try this plant-based shit. I mean, people keep talking about, and I was completely uneducated. Like, all I knew about was keto at that point. And so I watched this documentary. It's called Food Choices. I'm like, this guy makes a lot of sense. Like, maybe I should try some of this. Not having, I knew that you needed protein and stuff, but I didn't have all the information that I have now. And started going towards that. And then the next day, Ron Penna, who owns started Quest Nutrition, and Bruce Cardenas, who was like Quest's main, he's the guy that goes around and gives out free product to everybody. They came over to my house because I had created a keto ice cream that was amazing, and they really wanted to try it. And I created it using Mark's protein, and that's like a big deal. Like, president of Quest is like, I want to try because they wanted to make a protein ice cream. He's like, I want to try yours. Wow. I hear it's amazing. Your brother tells me it's amazing. So he came over and tried it, and he said, Chris, you know what I'm doing now? And Ron is just the greatest, like, most brilliant dude ever. I mean, he sold his company for $1 billion. He knows what's up. You know what I'm doing now? I said, what? He's like, steak and eggs. And I'm like Vince Gironda? He goes, yep, Vince Gironda. He was an old school bodybuilder. He was like, advocated the steak and eggs diet. I'm just doing that. I'm like, steak and eggs all day? He's like, yeah, all day. I'm like, that's so crazy. And then I thought about it, and I'm like, wait a second, that's not crazy. I used to do this carnivore diet that was just meat and water. So then I told him about that, and I said, I used to do this thing, and it was just meat and water. And he goes, yeah, that would work too, but I mean, eggs give you like a little bit more nutrients and some more options. You might want to try like steak and eggs. Huh. And then I, waited a couple months more, and then all of a sudden I saw Sean Baker on Rogan. And I'm like, that's it. That's what I need to do. It all clicked. Like, when I saw, I used to do a carnivore diet a long time ago, but I didn't know if it was healthy or not, like 25 years ago. And then when I saw this guy that owned Quest who was like way ahead of the time all the time, and Sean Baker, and they're like, yeah, maybe you should just eat meat. I'm like, that's where I need to go. And so I went into that, and I dove into that full blast, right? Like you said, you got to go full blast. What I was telling Mark the other day that was amazing is I got really shredded in the beginning on carnivore. But the reason I did is I don't think the same way I do now. Now I let all these other little things in. But when I just eat meat and water, just red meat and water, just that and that's it, I get in shape so fast. Mm-hmm. It's just interesting. I mean, I remember traveling to the Arnold and stuff with Mark, and we went to like an airport, and there was like a restaurant. We would go in the airport, and it would be so funny because we were new to it. And we would say to the waitress, like, yeah, I'll just have a steak on a plate. That's how we would order stuff. Mm-hmm. And they were like, what do you mean? Like, well, your ribeye steak, I just want your steak on a plate. Nothing else. They were like, nothing else? And he was like, no. And then they would always think it was so weird, and then they would ask about the diet.
Right.
That's why I sent you a picture yesterday of a sweatshirt that I want to make.
Yes.
Just says red meat and water.
Yes.
Because I want people to ask about it. Like, instead of lose weight now, ask me how. I want to walk around with a shirt that says red meat and water and have people go, what are you talking about? What is that?
So we're going to, this podcast is going to hit next Monday when you get back, right?
Yeah.
You're getting back. So you're heading out to Arnold's this weekend?
Yeah, we're going to head out to the Arnold, and Mark's going to podcast out there. He has a couple people lined up, but one of the reasons I'm going, which I think it's really cool, is first of all, Piedmontese has a booth there, and they would like me to be hanging out with them at the booth.
That's great.
But anyway, Piedmontese will be there. They have a huge booth, which will be awesome to hang out with all those guys, and there's some business stuff I would like to talk to them about as well. But really what I'm doing is going out and just kind of like grabbing people for Mark. Mm-hmm. They want a podcast with a bunch of people, and they're like, well, who's interesting? And like, oh, well, Chris knows everybody, and Chris knows where people are. So like, I'll just roll around there, and I'll find, hopefully find people like Martin Ford, who's like a big freak, and be like, hey, can we podcast with you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, find the cool people. Who are the cool people that are at the expo that we don't get to normally talk to? Like, we may see Tony Huge there, but we see him all the time. So like, who do we see that we don't know, or that we don't get a chance to grab often and have them on the podcast? I think Mark actually has, because I told him, I said, oh, it'd be great if we were able to get like Halfbore and Eddie Hall, because they're going to fight each other on March 19th. And then Mark's like, I already got that sewn up. I think he's got one or the other coming on.
Well,
and then he's trying to get the other one.
Offline, I was telling you how I had the most amazing conversation with my wife about how she was initially very skeptical of me getting added any new medications, and she was, and I kind of came to the point where I told her, hey, listen, I don't get in the way between you and what your doctors discuss. Like, I'm using actual doctors right now, and that led to a really heartfelt conversation that we had together. And one of the goals was, I don't like to tap into these feelings, but part of me is really sad I don't get to go with you this year. I would love to crack open the Capital One and fly out with you, but my ass is so goddamn wide. Mm-hmm. It would be, and also too, when you're just a fatty at the fitness.
Here's the thing, and I'll promise you this: if we can get you to lose 100 pounds by the time the Arnold comes around next year, we will have you coming with us, and we'll get it paid for.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. I'm so sick.
We got to have a prize at the end. Well, there's got to be something.
The prize is riding roller coasters with my sons.
Yeah.
And traveling and living a good life. I mean, that's the prize. I mean, yeah, man.
Well, we'll put a prize at the end. We'll figure it out.
That would be great. But that's my goal, is to stop letting these years tack by where I have to sort of feel like I'm, on the sideline.
If I had $1 million, I'd bet you $1 million, because that's how much I want you to do it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Honestly, if I had that kind of money, I'd be like, dude, I'll bet you. Like, I would bet you, because I feel like, not that you would do it because of the bet, but like if there was, like, I don't know what it is, but when we did World Carnivore Month, I was a savage.
This podcast is in and of itself a bet. The whole reason why I've gone, I think part of the reason why you and Mark, other than we get along, I mean, I've been pretty open about wanting, needing to get healthier, and Instagram has been a good source for me to just put it out there. This is my intentions. I'm not hiding from anybody that I'm trying. And then this podcast has been $1 million bet in and of itself. I mean, a lot of people see this every week. A lot of people are going to watch us having this discussion about me admitting my ass is so fat. I don't think it would fit on an airplane. I mean, it's humiliating. I don't get this masochistic joy to talk about this stuff.
You know what I really like? I love doing is I love helping people, and what I want to turn this podcast into is a podcast about helping people. Like, how do we help people every episode? And like, one of the things I was thinking that we can do is like literally just start going live on Instagram, like while we're on here, and have you field the questions. Like if I'm talking about a subject matter, like I always have a subject matter. There's always something to talk about. Mm-hmm. And I just start talking like on my Instagram, and there's somehow we can feed it in here, and you could like read what, like, hey, somebody just asked you blank, and then you just ask me, and we can actually interact with people and stuff and do something really cool.
Yeah,
because you could be like live on here, even though you're and recording it, and then it can help so many other people when they watch it. Say, oh, I have the same question.
Good idea.
So there's something there to make this a little bit more interactive, because I would love to get the questions from the audience. I think they have a lot of the same questions that you have. I think they have. Mark and I have been doing this forever, and we don't know everything, but I literally have or will find you an answer for almost any problem, out there, because I'm interested. I'm curious. The one thing that this guy came here a couple weeks ago, and he said, the beauty of you and Mark is you guys are so curious about everything. Like you keep asking questions and you don't stop. And what I realized is Mark told me this. He's like, get an expert in the room and you ask him about like Kratom, for example. Like, is Kratom addictive? And the guy might be like, yeah, it's addictive, blah, blah. Okay, well, like what's the study that like showed it's addictive? And then like they might even list a study showed blah, 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 blah. And then maybe you ask him one more question. Was that like an epidemiological study, like a survey? Or was that like a literal like random controlled trial? And they'll be like, well, I'm not really sure. It's like Mark always says, when you go 3 questions deep on somebody, usually they don't know the answer.
Right.
You ask them like one question and then they like peel back a layer. Another question, they might peel back another layer. And you ask them a third question, usually like, I don't know.
People can only be the bandwidth to be experts. How many things out there are you like an expert? You're an expert at filmmaking.
I've asked everybody when I made Bigger, Stronger, Faster. Everybody. How do they make testosterone? I've asked every person. And every person gives me the same answer. Oh, they make it in a lab. Out of what? Out of, chemicals and stuff. Where do these chemicals come from? You can't make something out of nothing. And it always comes back. I think it may be like Mexican yams. Like, I've never found a person that's like, here's exactly what it is and here's exactly what it does. So even on such a basic question like that, and there's probably people screaming at the screen right now going, I know. And they're probably going to say the same thing, though.
Yeah.
It comes from chemicals from China.
Right.
Like, that's not an answer for me, though.
Right.
Like, I'm too curious. Like, how did they turn it into testosterone? Like, well, like for whatever reason, I need to know. Like I want to know.
You want to look? You want to search that?
I've searched it a million times.
Okay,
it's like it doesn't. It always comes back to like it comes from some substrate of a Mexican yam or something, and then they say that testosterone comes from yams too. So it's like, well, what's the difference? Why is one considered a steroid, and the other one like just considered like, oh, that's a plant extract? Well, what's the other one? Is it a plant extract? What is it? If it comes from yams. So I don't know. It's interesting. Like when I do documentaries, a lot of the questions don't get answered. I had 1 million questions about Kratom. Nobody could answer them. People studying it for 15 years have no idea what the stuff really does. They do, kind of, but then they've also, like, the interesting thing is the person who studied Kratom the most in this country has never taken it because they don't want to bias themselves as a scientist, which I totally understand and have respect for. But at the same time, how do you tell people, it's like, how do you talk about it really if you never tried it? It's like, it's a weird thing,
I appreciate the sincerity behind the decision.
Yeah.
And also, Kratom feels. My experience of it is so mild. I don't see how.
It's crazy though. Other people think it's like heroin. Like I took Kratom and I went crazy, and it's like, so it's I don't know, man. There's too many people in this world is the problem. When you spread things out over a big enough society, there's always somebody that's going to end up with a problem from anything. So. Well, cool, man. I think we should just probably wrap this up. But I think that we have a mission set for this podcast where we're going to just like check in with you and we're going to basically get you to lose weight. We'll probably have a little bit more structure to this coming up. Sometimes we'll have guests, but I actually just like sitting here and talking to you. And I also like bringing the audience into it more. So if you guys have any questions or have any things that you want me to cover, I would love to talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. So just hit me up. You can also just like hit me up in a DM, like on my personal Instagram. I read a lot of them. I don't answer all of them because I literally get like, there's hundreds of them a day. But if, not hundreds, but there's probably like, if I let it go a day, there'll be 100 in there. So I try to answer as many as I can, but if you're not following me, then it also doesn't go in the right folder. So if you're not following me, then follow me and then ask me a question, and it's easier for me to see it. But yeah, that being said, whatever you guys want to know about, we would be down to talk about. And when I come back from the Arnold, I should have some updates on some really cool stuff that we're doing. So thank you guys for checking this out, and we will talk soon.
All right. Bye.
Later.